All right, where is Sam? Oh, so there's Sam. Bring in Sam. All right. Joining us right now from the Palatial Elk Grove studios of the Sam Amick Network, the one, the only, from The Athletic, Samuel Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, gentlemen. I was going to tell you before we get started, I was listening to the show yesterday, loyal listener here.
Thank you.
And then today, before I came on, it's the deep NBA offseason. And this is a compliment when yesterday, all three of you, including Chris, deserve credit for the high-level discussion on best comedians ever. I enjoyed that bit that Sactown sports listeners probably didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And then today, Dave / Martha Stewart is dropping recipes, and we're just checking all the boxes, which is good because you can only talk about your Kings for so long.
I was actually talking with Melissa last night about this. This is funny because she anyone who works with me or listens, knows that I dread the summer because there's nothing to talk about. But I said, you know what? For some reason, this summer is actually, I just know for me, I've let it go where it's just like, we're just going to talk about whatever. And there's a part of me, Sam, that actually likes the mix of the show. I know some people are like, oh, this is a sports show. Most people are used to the fact that it's sports and stuff. But, for me, I'm dealing with an audience of 3 here. Well, now 4 with you. I don't know. I'd rather talk about Impossible Cheeseburger Pie and do a service to the listener than like what are we doing here? Like going to break down the ESPN Red Zone deal for the 9th time? It's fun. It's fun to stretch the legs, Sam.
I mean, I just glanced at Hoops Hype to make sure I didn't miss anything big before we talked, and the Spurs signed the number one top story was the Spurs signing Micah Potter, who I've never heard of. So
Harry's nephew.
Yeah, he's a wizard.
Before we get started, Sam, what massive news are you going to drop on The Athletic 10 minutes after we get off the air? Do you want to give us again?
Hey, you can't control, when conversations happen. Jason Dave called me yesterday. He's mad at this little trend where I occasionally publish stories a day after. I tried to dive in on the Kaminga stuff. Which
you
again,
even last week.
Yeah, I did. I at least gave because I knew it was coming. I gave the disclaimer. I didn't know, if it would, how much I would learn. Turns out it was a fair amount, but even that though, I mean, I know we'll probably get into it again, but Jonathan Kuminga dominating the storyline, dominating the headlines, and not even just in the area. I mean, for most of the NBA, is quite a thing.
If you're wondering, I'm doing this because that way on the YouTube it looks like I'm looking at Sam when he's talking. We got a Brady Bunch thing going on because we got a sandwich going on right now. I think you got to look to your right.
Yeah,
we both look in the same direction, right? Yeah. Okay.
Looking at Sam.
I mean, if you're gonna go by that logic, I'm also coming in like Andre the Giant style.
Look at that big
not proportionate.
Makes my head look smaller. So, is it a Kaminga or a Gominga? What are we doing here? Thank you.
Wow.
What is your best bet? Is he? I'm putting you on the spot. We don't know what the hell is going on, but do your instincts, Sam, say that he's going to be starting the year with the Warriors?
I think Kuminga from the Kings' perspective, most likely. I haven't been given any reason to believe that. I mean, the Warriors are going to play this thing out. The one thing that I kind of ended up, even after writing my story, kind of learning and then tweeting about was that. And listen, it's both sides are posturing, but like the Warriors' distaste for having to move either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody being a factor is something that was underscored to me. And really, Buddy in particular had so many good moments in the Warriors playoff run. And not that it matters all that much, but like on social media the other day, I noticed Jimmy Butler, continuing his hilarious bit with Buddy and shouting him out on his social media. They've got a lot of chemistry and so that is a factor. And then of course you have the discussion about pick protections. So on the Warriors side, while the two sides did talk recently, the the Warriors side claims that the interest level is just not there, given the way it's constructed.
Do you get a sense, Sam, about Kaminga, how he feels in this situation? I mean, if he's hearing, Kings would give him a starting spot, maybe Phoenix would give him a starting spot. It's kind of always been a constant battle for him to get those minutes with the Warriors. Does he? I mean, in the end, he may not have a choice in all this that much, but does he want to be with the Warriors?
It doesn't appear to be the case. No, I mean, it seems pretty obvious that he doesn't. And really, beyond some of the personal stuff, we know that he and Steve Kerr have clashed at times. I probably said this on the show before, but I don't ever remember a player's camp, leaking a story. And I'm just saying, I don't know that for sure, but it seemed pretty obvious at the time. This is probably a year and a half ago when it was, the headline at The Athletic was Jonathan Kuminga has lost faith in Steve Kerr, and it, like that came out, and then they got through that. And so they've had all these fits and starts, but beyond the personal stuff, if you strip the emotion away and just look at the basketball, it could be pretty grim for Jonathan this season if he remains. When and I'm stealing this from my buddy Marcus Thompson at The Athletic and Tim Kawakami on their podcast, they talked about the minutes crunch and how, I mean, for one, it wasn't really pretty with Kaminga and Jimmy Butler playing together, and how, unless Jonathan starts becoming a 40% three-point shooter, that, his inability to stretch the floor is going to hurt him. And bottom line, like, there are a lot of scenarios where he's fighting to get 15 minutes, on the Warriors, because they're pretty deep and they're going to add some guys whenever the Kaminga dust settles. So, that's not great for a guy who at that point would be either headed toward unrestricted free agency after signing the qualifying offer, or waiting around for the Warriors to trade him if he signs that 2-year deal.
It's actually interesting because I was just checking here, assuming that they were to sign and trade Kaminga for somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range. I'd be fascinated to know how Kings fans would feel about this, because you could trade DeRozan and Malik Monk. You could pull back Kaminga at $23 million and have room for both Moody and Hield to fit in as well. In other words, would the Kings fans that want Jonathan Kuminga do that if that meant bringing Buddy Hield with him as well? I don't think so, Sam.
Interesting question. I don't think the Warriors do that. I mean, they don't.
Chance.
But the Buddy, we know the history with Buddy. It's love-hate locally.
I actually love I think that, honest to God, I think Jimmy Butler is the perfect guy to play with Buddy Hield. More than anyone in the NBA, he somehow has gotten through all the stuff. And it's like, all the things that we disliked about Buddy, Jimmy's like, I'm on it, and you need to think this through, and he keeps him accountable, and they seem to do it in a fun way. To Buddy's credit, by the way, he seems to be, ego aside, like, taking what Jimmy said. I think it ultimately makes Buddy a better player playing with Jimmy Butler.
No, I agree. And it's a funny life lesson, right? It's almost like, when there's folks that are rubbing you the wrong way, just say it out loud and work through it. And Jimmy is nothing if not unfiltered. So I agree.
Yeah. Sam, also on the Warriors side of this, for the they haven't done anything. Like, this is all kind of keeping them hamstrung, isn't it? That do they have to get this solved to, pursue anything else that they're trying to do this offseason?
Yeah. I mean, they've had to keep whatever little powder they have dry in order to be ready for any of these Kaminga scenarios. My understanding is, for one, you don't know down to the penny what you can pay Al Horford or DeAnthony Melton and maybe Gary Payton II until you know your books with Kaminga. But those three guys continue to be tied to the Warriors as like waiting in the wing, unofficially coming to town. So, that does appear to be the case where, those people know that, okay, the salary range is going to be from here to there, and we can't let you know yet where it's going to fall. So it has hamstrung them, but I think their patience is well-founded, or kind of, understandable, because this is their last best shot to add an impact player. And what I mean by that is, if they lose this Kaminga salary slot, so if he takes the qualifying offer at $7.9 million, that that takes a massive tool out of their tool belt, because they would be planning on taking his $20 million plus salary heading into the February trade deadline and finding somebody who's a better fit. That's their game plan here. And so that is worth waiting for, because right now there's nothing else out there that's going to make an impact.
Is there a scenario because it sounds like there's a bunch of different games of chicken at different levels going on right now, whether it's, Kaminga and the Warriors and Kaminga, Suns, Kings. We've talked before about the Kings having interest in Russell Westbrook or the like, and they have that 15 million and change MLE available, but they can't add another guard, to their already crowded backcourt. So there seems to be some potential dominoes. But Sam, is there you're right. If he opts in, that does screw them to a point. Is there a situation where he and his agent could inform the Warriors he's going to opt in on the deal, and that might be the linchpin they're waiting for to say, okay, all right, you got us, cool, don't opt in, give us 3 days to wrap this up, where they're waiting for him to do that to see if he calls their bluff, in other words?
Interesting question, because I don't know the mechanics of,
Yeah.
Can you bluff that hard? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
You can certainly signal, like they already are, that we're going to do it.
But no, to your point though, could Kaminga say to his agent, could they say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the Warriors, let's just have some conspiracy theory fun here. He and his agent decide they're going to go to the Warriors and say, we're going to come in on the qualifying offer. And then they wait to see if the Warriors go, okay, we'll get the paperwork ready, but here's your DocuSign, or however they do it. Or they say they back off. And then conversely, you get even weirder. Let's say the Warriors go, okay, well, we'll get it ready. And then Kaminga backs off and says, no, I changed my mind. It's just interesting how that works.
For sure. And especially when you have this much time. That's the thing. You're talking about August 1st being the deadline for the qualifying offer. Jonathan is posting pictures from all over the world. He's a fashion guy. He's doing his thing. He does not appear to be losing sleep over the situation right now. There's just a lot of time, almost 2 months before, that deadline. So from a negotiation standpoint, especially on the Warriors side, if you truly have the support of Al Horford's camp and DeAnthony Melton's camp and Gary Payton II's camp, and if their attitude is, we're fine because as long as, we're going to be in training camp at some point with a contract, then, neither side has any incentive to blink.
I'm thinking on that side, I guess those groups that you're talking about, GP2 and Horford and Melton, like knowing that not a lot of people now are spending any more money, a lot of this is done. I guess what you're saying, Sam, is they're comfortable waiting on all this? Because that's
that's the way. The Gary one I don't have a great feel for, but yeah, that's been my understanding. And honestly, this time of year, I wish I had more. This information is accessible, meaning like there's only finite resources in the market of possibilities, scenarios, and those camps are all acting like they've gamed all of them out. The Warriors is the one that they have selected. They trust that they're not going to get, backstabbed here. And so it's just a matter of the order of operations at this point.
I'm so sorry to put you on the spot here, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know this. I'm just curious. You mentioned, I always, me, I always look for this stuff between Horford. Who we talk about? Horford,
Melton, and Payton.
Melton, Payton Jr., and Kaminga. Do we have any agent or agency commonalities there? Do you know?
No. You have
okay.
You have Jason Glushon with Al Horford. I believe with DeAnthony. Hopefully, don't get this wrong. I think you have Excel.
Okay.
And Jeff Schwartz.
Yep.
And then Gary historically has been Aaron Goodwin. So I think 3 different agents.
And then who's Kaminga? Top of your head?
That is Aaron Turner.
Okay. All right. So there, sometimes that becomes a little interesting. Obviously, all different there. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about De'Aaron Fox. Since you last came on with us, he has signed a max extension with the Spurs. I'll ask you first and foremost, Did that surprise you at all?
No. I mean, there was the online chatter about how maybe, the way the roster had evolved since he came to town and after getting hurt might compromise his extension. I didn't have any reason in terms of actual information to think that was the case. The Dylan Harper drafting kind of, was part of that narrative and that idea. But, they Kings fans wish that they gave up more to get him, but they did target him and they did make him a priority in that trade and decide that he was somebody that was going to fit well alongside Wemby. So I wasn't shocked, especially, I mean, listen, his production, we talk all the time about contracts being tradable. Yes, it's a lot of money, but to De'Aaron's credit, I mean, when he's healthy, he has put up the types of numbers where you look at the contract and it's on the high end, but everything's on the high end these days.
Yeah.
In terms of like percentage of salary cap that it eats up, that is a contract that if they did decide to change directions, they'd probably be able to move off of. So I think the goal though is to go contend for a title with the big fella. And now it kind of begins the delayed or belated getting to know you period, because they didn't get a lot of time together before. And now we'll see. I mean, that's a pressure packed job to be. It's one thing to, we've talked about De'Aaron ad nauseum, like, is he alpha material? You know what I mean? Is he a number one guy? And that's its own discussion. But then, if ever there was a pressure packed job as a number two, I think it's being like, even though it's going to be basketball wise, fun, there's a lot of attention on the guy who gets kind of hand selected to be alongside Wemby. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah, you said you thought that it would be a contract that could be easily moved if they have to go that route. And if they do, that means Castle and Harper developed, and it's a luxury they would have. But, I'm thinking about other guys in the past. Right here, Zach LaVine has a contract that a lot of people deem that's a really tough one to move. Bradley Beal at one point this is a great player, but, man, that contract, do you think we'll be in a time, Sam, at some point where someone goes, man, that's a pretty big contract for De'Aaron Fox?
Maybe. I mean, we could. On the one hand, the cap continues to rise, and so that waters down all of these contracts. Now, that hasn't helped the Zach LaVine market, to your point, Jay. But certainly, I think age-wise, style of play-wise, De'Aaron is a guy who does make his teammates better from a playmaking standpoint. His three-point shot has improved. His speed is almost unmatched. When he locks in on defense, he is a two-way player. And so, he's checking more boxes than Zach does, as great of a shooter and a scorer as Zach is. But, I mean, it is a very, very big number. So, in fact, it's 4 for 2. Is it 229?
Yeah, 28, 29.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about I still can't get used to these numbers, but it is a big contract. But I think when healthy, De'Aaron is a pretty desirable player right now.
We're also talking about, we see this with OKC too, and it seems like they're trying to follow similar timelines. That here's the reality of the situation: De'Aaron Fox's contract doesn't kick in, this extension, until 26, 27. I just did the quick numbers. He's making about $2 million more next year before the extension kicks in. He's making $2 million more than Wembanyama, Harper, and Castle combined. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the fact that Wembanyama is signed, including qualifying offer, which obviously they'll give, he's signed for another 3 years. Castle 4, and then obviously Dylan Harper also 4 plus the QO there. They have the ability to do this right now, but that's not. I can't imagine that sustainable. At some point, something's going to have to give. But they got a good 2-3 years before it does.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's happening all over the league where fans are getting caught up in this is not regular work life where it's how in the hell is that guy making more than that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's a matter of timing, age, the way your entire payroll is structured. And they don't, I mean, if you go, it's a weird example, but if you go back to the Bruce Brown signing in Toronto, he sees a little quirk in the Raptors payroll and a chance to go make, $40 million when he's not that kind of a player over 2 years. and and they have money to spend based on the way their books are built, and that human being is going to take advantage of it, even if his market wasn't there. So De'Aaron's going to happily take this contract. If they win titles, then they figure out what the next contract looks like, and if they don't, they probably move on.
Sam, I know we're going to have a little hiatus from you for a little bit, and then you'll be back closer to the season. But as we wait for that time period, you mentioned it's kind of the lull. What are the things besides, I don't know, I guess the schedule is probably coming out in a few weeks, but what are the kind of things, storylines you're going to be looking at over the next couple weeks?
Honestly, as I chat with two friends here, like not a lot.
Yes.
Like,
Awesome.
I mean, it's funny. I'll be doing some stuff. This, from an appreciation standpoint, I was telling good old neighbor John this the other day. A year ago, and this was a huge blessing. A year ago, I was covering the Olympics in Paris, and it was such a cool experience. But it's been a minute since I got to enjoy the kind of August at home period when the season slowed down and the family's, wife who's a teacher is going back to school pretty soon, and the boys are going back to school. So trying to enjoy the end of the summer with the family around. We are doing a project at our place that I don't know the timing, but it should be fun when it comes out, to give a very, very early sneak preview is kind of analyzing the top 25 players of the past 25 years and having a cutoff of like the year 2000. And our entire staff is weighted on this. And within that coverage, there's going to be, the top 25 moments and just kind of a quarter century look at the first quarter of this century in the NBA. I did my list yesterday, and it was fun, but it was hard because you have certain players' resumes getting, like your resume, no matter when you started to play, starts in the year 2000. So, Shaq and Kobe fared really well because, their three-peat began right then. But it was fun to kind of go down memory lane and do some of that, but that's about it.
Well, we'll miss you. I'll leave you with this, because we were talking about it earlier. During the break from us, we were talking about the ESPN purchase of the NFL now has 10% of ESPN and the red zone and all this stuff that I'm sure you've been reading about in sports business. We were talking about, journalism's a air quotes thing these days in certain spots, and a lot of unfair barbs thrown at journalism as well. But I think we can all agree that it's very difficult to believe that an entity will be impartial when it is owned at least 1/10 of it by the very outfit it's covering. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for your parent company to start their own independent television network with all the assets that you all have, so that they can be the ones that are fair and unbiased and elevate all of you into a position where we can now look for actual coverage of these sports without those very sports owning pieces of you. So if you could run that up the chain and report back to us in a couple months. I'm just trying to make you money, Sam, to be honest.
Listen, I hear you. I know you're being that tiny bit, you're not being tongue in cheek, but I mean, listen, and this is out of my pay grade, there are discussions about evolving on the video side for sure. And I think the general spirit of what you're talking about, our people know they need to lean even harder into, meaning that objectivity and I mean, listen, the New York Times brand and them being our parent company that bought us a few years back, the credibility is there. Our sports staff is a absolute, just it's humbling to be part of it because it's just loaded with so many talented people. So I hear you, and we've had those talks about the parts of media that are a little jaded these days, and there's so many good people at ESPN, and
that's right.
But that's a tough line to walk, man. When I mean, if the NBA owned, the NBA already has a lot of influence over, ESPN, and if they own part of it, that would be, not ideal journalism that I learned over at Sacramento State a very long time ago. Stingers up, baby.
Enjoy the family.
Yes.
Inevitably, I'm sure some massive news is going to break, if not later today, in about a week or two, that hopefully will not force you to get away from the family and cover it. But we do appreciate all the work you do with us throughout the year, and let contract negotiations open officially now between Bonneville and Sam Amick and the Athletic. And I say this every year. I hope we're able to come to an agreement and bring you back this fall.
It's been so contentious every year. Me and Jason Ross arm wrestling, trying to figure this thing out.
Just remember, it's business. It's not personal. It's negotiations. They don't mean any of it, Sam.
Appreciate y'all. Talk to you down the road. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And if news does break, feel free to give me a shout.
Okay. Very
Thank you,
good.
Sam.
Remember, he said that.
Yeah, I did.
Right, that's Sam. All
right, guys.
See you, buddy.
Good.
You too. We'll take a break. When we come back, NFL